Welcome to the Back to Brick Property Podcast. I'm your host, David Lamb. On this podcast, we'll be stripping property investors and business people alike back to brick to find out how their journey can help you on your journey.
This podcast is brought to you by Orange Sales and Lettings. If you know someone that is looking to sell or let a home, please get in touch. Referral fees are available. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Back to Brick Property Show, sponsored by Orange Sales and Lettings. I'm your host, David Lamb. On today's show, we have property developer, investor and businessman Neil Gibb. He's one of my best friends and he currently resides in Western Australia, Perth. How are you doing, Neil?
I'm very good, mate. And yeah, thanks for calling me one of your best friends.
Yeah, but I haven't got many. There's you and one other lad. So yeah, it was a 50-50 split, really.
Beauty. Glad to meet
So,
you.
how's life over there, mate?
Life is good, mate. Life is good. I left the sunny shores of Middlesbrough back in 2010. And to be honest, mate, I've never looked back. It's the best thing I've ever did.
Yep.
I think I left England at the right time as well, looking back. I know you left and you came to Australia around a similar time as well, but I think 2010 after the GFC, England started to take a bit of a fall. And when I moved to Western Australia, the place was booming. And, left there, wages were starting to come back down. It was getting quite hard to find a job over there as well. And then I came to Western Australia, the place was just booming. You were just falling in and out of work quite easy and getting offered more and more money every single week. So life is very, very good now. Life is totally different now to what it was in 2010 as well, which I'm sure we'll go through on the podcast.
Yeah. So a bit of a background then. You moved over to Perth 2009, was it? A year before me, I think it was.
2010, yeah, June 2010.
2010. Well, I was, must have been early 2011 I got there then. So you'd already sort of semi-settled there. I got there, met up with you and a few other mutual friends from the northeast of England, and we all had a share house for a time there. And like you've just touched on, I mean, I knew nothing about the mining and gas boom in Australia when I got there. I was backpacking around the East Coast with a group of other lads. Came over to Western Australia to see what that was about and catch up with you and a few others. And yeah, it just became quickly apparent back then that the place was absolutely booming. Bar staff were getting $30 to $40 an hour. Everyone had a boat. It was just meant. I've never seen a boom like it in my life.
Yeah, well, it's going on again right now, mate. The property market in Perth is literally on its knees. We've got the last stats that the Real Estate Institute of Western Australia released. We've got something like 1,800 properties available to rent, and there's 2.1 million people live in Western Australia.
Yeah.
Right now, we've got home opens for rentals. We've got anything from 30 to 50 people queuing up around the block.
Right, which sounds very similar to the numbers they were stating back in those days. So anyway, before we get onto the property market over there, I want to deep dive into your sort of story. So, what did you do in Teesside? What's your background? What was life like before all of this?
Yeah, so I left school at 16 and fell into an apprenticeship as an electrician. Great times, mate. Looking back at them days, that being that age, earning some good money, not a care in the world, still living with the parents, out every weekend, just loving life. But my mum remarried a guy called Peter Mitchell, and Mitch became a father figure because my dad unfortunately passed away in 2007. And Mitch became this father figure in my life, and he probably gave me quite a lot of confidence in the early days. And one thing he always said to me was, get a trade, son, and go to a different country and then chase the money. So in my mind, that was always in the back of my mind. I'm just going to get my apprenticeship out the way, get some experience, then I'm going to start applying for jobs all over the place. And I tried to get into places like Iraq, which was paying pretty good money at the time. Never ended up going over there, thankfully. Thankfully for my mother, she's never wanted me to go over there.
Yeah.
And then I came off, like you say, I came off the back of 2009, and the market was just starting to quieten down. One of the companies I was working for, the project ended with them, and they let me go. And then I signed up to a recruitment agency, and they give me a job, but it was only a 3-month job. And I thought, I'm a bit over this. So at the time, one of our good friends, Mr. Jamie Ackworth, he'd moved to Australia. I think it was like 2 years before us, so maybe 2008, 2009. And he looked like he had a great life, constant sunshine, bought himself a nice house, had all the toys. I thought Australia looks like the go. So I literally put my house on the market. He owned a property in Linthorpe at the time, put my property on the market with all the furniture included, and sold it at the first home open. And 2 weeks later, I booked my flight to Australia. And then in June 2010, mate, I moved over here, green as the grass, with my electrical kit and my tool bag.
Well, it's not a bad way to arrive. What? So you sold your house, you put your house on the market in the UK, knowing that you were going to Australia no matter what happened.
Yeah, and to be honest, mate, it didn't really sink in until we accepted the offer, and I thought, yeah, this is really happening now. So I think a lot of people didn't think I was going to actually take the plunge and do it, and I think a lot of people thought I was going to do it and come back. But here I am, 14 years later, and absolutely no chance of me coming back now, mate, I'm afraid.
Right. I'll never write it off. So you'd obviously researched which areas to go into. You know, with your background as an electrician, you were always going to head sort of west. It's more industrial. For people that don't know, it's more industrial. A lot of mining, a lot of resources, a lot of oil and gas. So you obviously researched that before you flew into Western Australia.
No, I didn't actually. I literally moved here because Jamie Ackworth was here, and
Right.
he messaged me and said, "Mate, if you come over, give me a shout. I'll put you up in a room in the house, and you can get yourself sorted." And if he didn't do that, mate, I probably would have come back, because I turned up with 10, 15 grand English. That doesn't last you long in this country, unfortunately.
It's a night out, isn't
it? Yeah. Jamie put me up in a room in his house, and luckily he had internet, printers, all that type of stuff, because what I didn't realize is, as an electrician, I needed to transfer my skills from the English equivalent to the Australian equivalent, and that took some time, and it took some money. And I got over there. Jamie actually found me a car, so he was like, "Look, mate, buy that. It's cheap. It's good." Paid 3.5 grand for this Ford Falcon, and that was me, mate. I had my car, my tool bag, and just a bag full of ambition. And didn't take me long to fall into work as an electrician, but because I didn't have my license, I had to be employed as a trade assistant and work with other electricians, helping them pull cables in and stuff like that. All the sexy stuff.
Yeah. All right. So you've done that. You were no doubt earning decent money once you transferred your trade skill, etc. What then? Were you saving money? Were you looking to buy a house? Were you looking to get into property?
To be honest, mate, the first 2 years in Australia, I just messed around. I was just earning some good money, meeting new people, getting out there, socializing. And coming from Middlesbrough, it's not a type of place where people are telling you to save up and invest your money into property and stuff like that.
No.
So I came here, I didn't know anything about investing, didn't know anything about property and how to make money from it. And I just knew how to earn money, like spending my time to earn money. That was the only way I knew how to do it.
Well, like you just said there, coming way away from it, and probably coming from most areas of the UK, you're not taught anything different. You're part of a system, aren't you? And you at school and education, even your trade background, it teaches you to be an employee and to pay into the tax system. Yep. But especially coming from the northeast, where we're from, Teesside, it's very, very working class, isn't it?
Yes.
Nobody around you or I was doing anything of the sorts.
Correct.
When it comes to investing. Or
I think the benefit of coming from an area like Middlesbrough is, like, it is a town full of grafters.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely a work hard ethic. So turning up to Australia with my work ethic that I had, which was, it's kind of in your blood, right? It didn't take long to start being promoted at different companies that I was working on. And going through the full visa process was quite difficult. So that's probably why I spent the first 2 years just messing around and had some great times, mate. That's when me and you started living together and probably did become best friends at that time as well.
Yeah.
And then once I got my visa approved, so I knew I could stay in the country, that then allowed me to start doing work up north and doing fly in, fly out. And that's when we got pulled into the mining boom, the construction boom.
Yeah.
And, I was doing 26 days away at a time and coming back for 9 days back into Perth.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I remember you being on that swing. So yeah, you and I, we had an apartment in Fremantle. Amazing times. You know, we were both young, single, just relatively new to Australia still. Both earning good money, both flying away for work. Me to the oil rigs, you wherever you were going at the time. And coming back and just living the life. So why property? Why did you think I'm going to start investing in property?
Well, this lad that I lived with at the time called David Lamb actually secretly had this portfolio back in the UK, and he was earning good money and squirreling money back to the UK to buy more and more property. And even though I was an electrician, and back in the UK, I was rewiring houses a lot. So I was around the construction of property. We call them renovations, you call them rehabs of property.
Yeah.
I was around it all the time. I just didn't know how to commercialize it. And then one day you just said to me, I'm going to a property seminar tonight, mate. Would you like to come along? And I said, yep. And that was the point when it was like someone opened a door and they said to me, do you know all the things you think you know? Here's a new room full of stuff that you don't know. And, moving from England to Australia, you're starting from the bottom again. You've got no connections, no friends, no networks, nothing. You're literally starting fresh again, and you're going out there, you meet new people, and then walking through that door, leaving behind or as an electrician, but then getting introduced to property and how to commercialize it, how to make money from it, how to create cash flow from it. Mm-hmm. Was massive. And that was probably the turning point in my life when I actually thought to myself, wow, this is how you do it.
So basically, I saved your life, didn't I?
Did, mate? You really did.
And I'll never let you forget it. But no, seriously though, I had a small portfolio. I think I had 4 or 5 properties in England at the time. Like you say, I had this newly earned wealth from my Australian oil and gas career, and the money was ridiculous. I mean, like I touched on, everyone was on ridiculous money, weren't they? The chefs, the cleaners. If you worked in Australia during that period, you had a lot of cash at your fingertips. So, like you say, I was squirreling money away and trying to buy more properties in the UK, and then I saw this property seminar advertised, and I thought, you know what? I'm in Australia now. I feel settled. I'd like to learn about the Australian market. I'd like to work out how it all works over here and see if I can replicate what I've started to do in the UK and maybe get a small portfolio in either country. So yeah, we went along, didn't we? And I remember being sat next to you, and because a lot of the stuff was very similar to the UK, so I'd heard a lot of it. But you literally, I don't think you blinked for an hour. You were like,
well, I remember the guy on stage, right, was talking about how to buy a property, how to do the calculations to understand the yield that it was going to generate. I didn't even know what a yield was, but I was like, this sounds brilliant. Give me some more yield. And this guy just openly talked on stage about how to make money from real estate. And I was like, I can't believe that people are actually talking about this on stage. And I was hooked. Mate. I went out and joined, I went to another seminar. I've probably joined up to, in the early days, I joined up to 3 of these core seminars that really give me access to communities of other property investors, which helped me build networks and stuff like that. But then once we started getting into doing bigger deals, we started joining other people's courses just to get access to that community.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So we quite happily pay $3,500 to $5,000 just to get access to more investors that we didn't have access to, and then we could show them what we were doing from the other education that we learned, and then do joint ventures with them as well. So we were paying to get access to communities in the end. Yeah,
and I think subconsciously that is what a lot of people are doing when they join these courses. They see it as they're solely paying for the education. But the value is not in the education. Obviously, there is some value in the education, but the main value is in it just increasing your network and bouncing ideas off people and finding new money, finding new deals. And you immersed yourself in that world. I mean, I know I introduced you to it, but you completely immersed yourself into it, far beyond what I was doing at the time.
Yeah, and I think some people are motivated by the carrot or the stick, right? And at the time, I was probably motivated by the carrot. I was motivated by learning more and earning more.
Yeah.
But coming through that like sort of oil and gas, peak and boom, it's peak and troughs, right? There's a time in the market's booming, everyone's earning good money, but then specifically with me, I came off the back of a 2-year contract where I was earning really good money, and then I had 6 months out of the game, but I didn't adjust my spending habits because I didn't understand money like I do now. So I had 6 months off work, spending money like I was still at work, and
Yeah.
soon ran out of cash, mates. Soon ran out of cash, which is
Yeah.
why we had to start doing joint ventures and stuff like that with people to get our property journey off the ground.
Yeah. But that sounds 6 months off work is a long time, but you knew there was an end goal there. Even at that stage, there was an end goal there for you.
So the end goal was, these seminars that I went to, they were talking about creating cash flow from real estate so that you could replace your income and quit your job. And I just thought to myself, I'll have a slice of that. And what the first strategy that we started to implement in Western Australia was renovations. And I think a lot of people dip their toe into the property development world with renovations because it's low cost, quick turnaround. It's quite familiar to people because everyone's lived in a house at some stage, and everybody's probably seen the parents, put a new kitchen in or a new bathroom or something like that. So we started doing renovations with the education that we gain from these courses.
Sorry, just stop you there, Neil. What when you said do renovations, do you mean renovation for other people?
No. So we'd go out and we'd find a deal, like an old dilapidated property on the market, and then we'd put an offer in for that property, and then we'd run off and find a joint venture partner who would put the deposit down on that property for us and then fund the renovation.
Right, okay.
And then we would be the sweat party who put the sweat equity into the deal. So we'd be the doers, and somebody else would be the cash partner in the deal. And that partner who put that money into that deal, we actually met in that first community that we signed up to. And we've gone on to do numerous deals with that person. And she's also a client in the business that we've got now as well.
Brilliant. So, and what was your exit strategy at the end of that? So you found a cash investor, you did the sweat equity, like you said. And then what? Did you keep them? Did you sell them on?
You just sold them down, mate. They were just quick in and out deals. We give that investor 15% cash on their money in the deal. I think she ended up putting 150 grand in, which was a 20% down payment plus the renovation and holding costs. And then at the back end, she got her money back with 15% on it, and we kept the profit, which was about 35 grand, if I remember rightly. It wasn't massive money, but it was 35 grand, and it was a project that we had gained experience in, of the buying, selling, renovating process.
Yeah.
And then we went up and done another.
Yeah, great experience. Obviously, building up trust, building up a CV with investors as well, I guess, with being still relatively new to the country. So then what from renovations, what was your first strategy from then on?
Well, what we did with these renovations, when we joined these education groups or these communities, I got a lot of inspiration and motivation from other people posting what they were doing into these groups. So with that first renovation we posted quite a lot of content into that group. And what we didn't know at the time is we were slowly building our own brand, and people were starting to build trust and rapport with us, even though we'd never met them before. So we went on to do more smaller renovation projects, kept sharing them into the group, which then made it easier to raise finance when we needed to do more deals. But what we realized pretty quickly is, because they were classed as chunk deals, like you get paid at the end of them and then you need that money to live on, we need to keep doing them over and over again, which I didn't mind doing, but we wanted to create cash flow from real estate. So that's when we came across the HMO strategy, which is obviously the HMO is a UK term. I knew what HMOs were back in the UK. Never invested in one, obviously, because I never did any investing back in the UK. But then we started doing some research into the Perth market, and we realized that nobody in Perth was offering HMO style accommodation. Nobody was offering room by room rentals apart from around universities.
Right, okay.
So we, again, with one of these communities we were in, one of these courses we paid to get access to, we learned the strategies to test the market to see if there's demand in there. And what we soon found is there was demand all over Perth, but there was no housing for them all over Perth.
And how did you test? How did you test that demand?
So we just put test ads, fake ads online to say,
right, okay.
We've got a room that looks like this in this area, and this is the price point for it. And we just wait until people inquired on that room. Now in the UK, there's the HMO and the room rental space is a lot more mature than what it is here. So we were literally running these on Facebook, and still do them on Facebook right now because it's a really good platform. And the co-living HMO space is still quite mature in Australia in general. So there's still no real platforms like you have got in the UK to advertise these rooms.
So there's no spare room.
There's no spare room. There's one called Flatmates, but you get a lot of people that own properties renting out a spare room in that property. So you're living with the owner.
I feel like there's a website about to be launched.
We're trying to, mate. We're trying to. There's only so many hours in a day, isn't there? But what we did with the house that we lived in, myself and Joe built a property in 2014 with all the money that I was making from the oil and gas thing. So I didn't waste it all. I did luckily build myself a house, which was adaptable for the HMO strategy. So what we did is we converted that into a HMO, and we packed up our bags and we moved in with a mother-in-law for a few weeks just to check that the strategy actually worked, because if we couldn't rent them rooms out, we could have just picked our bags back up and moved back into the property. And we rented them 5 rooms out in that property within 4 weeks and more than doubled the rent on that property.
I know. Obviously, I know that the property well that you're referring to. Obviously, it was your first home over there that you built. Beautiful house. Interesting that you tested the strategy in an area that you wouldn't necessarily think HMOs. If you're going to do a HMO in Perth, you wouldn't necessarily look at Hammond Park, would you? I know it's developed a lot since those days when you built the property, but there's no university. There was no university, and there was no massive employer at that time, was it?
Correct. The only benefits it had, it was close to the freeway, and it was close to Fremantle and Henderson, which was kind of like an employment hub.
Yeah. So you've done that, and you've proved it. But I guess that was the best way to do it, because from that point of view, at that point you were like, okay, well, if we can make it work within 4 weeks, we filled the rooms in Hammond Park. What can we achieve in the more built-up areas?
Correct, mate. So we went on a bit of a mission after that, and we started in these communities. We started learning about creative ways to acquire property. So we were doing call options, we were doing lease options, we were doing head leases and rent to rent. And again, we couldn't find anybody else that was implementing these strategies. But I'm the type of person where if somebody that's already done something says this is how you do it, I'll just go, thanks very much, and I'll go out there and I'll do it. I'll try it at least, see if I can get it to work. The first few rent to rents we got rejected on because our pitch wasn't sharp enough. But with all these rejections and failures, we learned how to reapproach the agents and get these things over the line. And when we got one, we got another, We ended up with 6 properties that were generating over $110,000 a year in net cash flow after all expenses.
Wow.
And that then enabled me to quit my job and go into real estate full time.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you just mentioned and the persuasion of the agents, because even at this, you said that the rent to rent in the HMO market in the UK is a lot more mature than it is in Oz. But even so, a lot of agents are reticent to even entertain the idea of a rent to rent deal.
Yeah.
So to do that in Australia, it must have been so difficult, that those first few conversations.
It were, mate. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the agents were like, "What, you want to rent the property and then sublease the rooms out?" And we were like, "Yeah." And they were like, "And how many of these have you done?" We were like, "1 so far," but it works well. And they were like, "So why would this be a benefit for the owner?" And we were like, "Well, we'll take a long lease on this thing." And at the time, the vacancy rate in Perth was quite high. There was a lot of vacant properties because it was off the back of the last mining boom that me and you earned a lot of money in.
Yeah.
Then projects finished and people started leaving Western Australia, going back to Sydney, Melbourne, England, Ireland, wherever they come from. So there was a lot of vacant properties on the market at the time. So we were saying we would take a 5-year lease on this property, for instance, and we would pay the gas, water, electric. We'd take out an extra insurance policy, and we'd also put another property manager in place that would manage the tenancy on our behalf. And that makes your life as the property manager for your client easier because it's getting double managed.
Yeah.
So we managed to get 2 of them over the line in quick succession. And the only outlay that we had to do for them was furniture packs and the fire safety upgrades, very similar to in the UK.
Yeah.
And then we found one in Fremantle, which was a 6-bedroom, 6-bathroom, purpose-built HMO that the owner of this property had built 2 of them next to each other. So there was essentially 12 bedrooms and 12 bathrooms split across 2 houses. But the property manager couldn't rent out all 12 rooms. So she moved the tenants out of one house into the other and then put this property on the market for, I think she put it on the market for $950 a week. And we approached her and said, look, we would like to take a head lease on this property for 5 years. We would like to sublease the rooms out individually. You know, we can offer this, we can do that, blah, 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 blah. She said, the owner will never take that deal. So I said, oh, well, look, just put the deal to them. So anyway, she came back. She said, look, they've actually accepted the deal, but they don't want $900 a week. They want $1,000 a week. And from our calculations, this property would have rented out for $1,500 a week, $250 a room times 6, $275 a room. Sorry. We went back to the agent and said, oh, we can't do it at 1,000. 900 is our last offer. And she said, oh, no, they're not going to take that. So the deal's off. So we kind of left it. And I had it starred on my realestate.com. So every time there's activity on that actual property, it sends you an alert. And I seen this property drop from $900 a week to $850 a week to $800 a week. And then I seen it drop to $750 a week. So I went back to the agent and I said, look, we're still interested in the property. And she said, oh, look, I'll go back to them, see what they said. And she came back and said, yeah, the agent, the seller or the investor is happy to lease it at your original offer of $900 a week. And I said, oh, well, that's the problem now. Like, we can't afford to do it $900 a week. We have to do it $800 a week. So we actually ended up renting it for 5 years at $800 a week, and we leased it out for $1,500 a week. And I was making 29 grand a year cash flow off that one property, and I didn't even own it. And I had it on a lease for 5 years.
Wow.
Now I ended up unselling that because the owner came to me after 2 years and they said that they wanted to sell that property. And by that time, our business had grown, and we'll probably talk about the business a little bit in a minute, but the business had grown to the point where we had investors that were reaching out to us saying, can you help us buy these properties? So the agent came to me and said, they want to sell this property. I went into our database and said, we've got the 6-bedroom property. It rents out for this. And the seller wants, I think they wanted $800,000 for the property at the time. And I said to the sellers, I said to the buyer, the only problem is if you buy it, I've still got 3 years on my lease on it that you need to honor. So the investor that came in and bought that property bought out my lease for $45,000.
Oh, wow.
So I pocketed I was making $29,000 a year cash flow from that property for 2 years. And then I redacted my lease for $45,000 to unsell it to somebody else.
Amazing.
But then we set up a property management business. So we took over the management of that property for the investor that paid me $45,000.
Win-win.
Yeah. So again, all these strategies and the creativity that we were putting into these deals was all because we were around a network of other property investors that we were bouncing ideas off on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing, mate. So have you continued with that model? Have you just replicated, finding these deals? I know you do a lot of them yourself. You also do heavily involved in replicating these type of deals for other people now as well.
Yeah, once we got to the stage where I could quit my job, and again, we documented a lot of this on Facebook, and we dropped it into specific Facebook groups. So property investor related groups. I do video walkthroughs saying, this is a HMO that we've just took a rent lease on, and it's generating this much cash flow. And people would reach out to me constantly, ask me questions. First thing would be, what's a HMO? What's a rent to rent? But then more property investors start coming to us saying, like, if we buy these properties, can you convert them for us? So because we had a property management business, under that property management business, I could work as a buyer's agent. I think you call them property sources in the UK. So the Australian and English terminology, even though I'm English, I've been here for 14 years. So I'm well and truly using their terminology nowadays. So I started working as a buyer's agent, going out there and buying existing properties for people and then converting them into HMOs. And then we'd offer the property management on the back end as well. So we had this one-stop shop solution for HMOs for investors.
Yeah.
And to date, we have purchased and converted or built from new 114 HMOs and delivered something like 630 rooms to the market, all of which we've got in our property management business. And right now we've got 147 properties under construction through various builder channels that we've got, which is valued at around $73 million.
Wow. I want to come back to the construction business because that's a separate entity in itself. I want to just concentrate on the HMO side of things just for now because I've got other questions. But at that time, when you were going to these network groups and you were talking to other people about different strategies, how many people were doing HMOs in WA at the time within those groups?
None of them at all. And the main reason was nobody could find a property management company to manage them the way that they needed to be managed. So they would want to put all 5 or 6 tenants on the same lease agreement. They would want to split the bond between them 5 or 6 ways, and they'd want to split the rent between them 5 or 6 ways. That was the traditional share house model. That was
like a lead. So you have like a lead tenant.
yeah. And that was the model that was being used around these universities. So we came in and instead of renting the house for $500 a week and splitting that between 5 people, we'd rent out the rooms for $200 or $250 a week, times that by 5 people, and all of a sudden we've got nearly triple the rent as what it used to rent out for previously.
Yeah, because I know not just from your social media and your online presence, but obviously I've been back to Perth a couple of times since you started the HMO business, and you are seen as sort of the HMO pioneer almost of WA. You were doing it before anyone else, and to me, watching from afar on Instagram and Facebook, it was just like, oh, it's just Gibby doing HMOs. You know, HMOs are everyone does HMOs, but in WA, nobody was doing HMOs. You know, and so I guess where did that confidence come from? Your confidence in the model. I know you tested the market, etc., but you said you knew about HMOs anyway from your time in England. Was there some comfort in the fact that you knew people were doing them so successfully in the UK still?
Yeah, definitely seen the model work and benefit so many investors in the UK, and seeing the size of the HMO market over there. It was just confusing. I don't know if that's the right word. Like, just interesting that nobody else had really implemented the HMO model over here. But now people reach out to me saying they want to do HMOs, and again, there's still only us as an operator outside of these university areas that offer the end-to-end service that we do. So now people, like you said, I've kind of put myself into this position where I've become the go-to HMO person in Western Australia. And I go to community or go to like networking events. I don't go to as many now because my wife's just had a little baby boy, so I like to be home on a night feeding him and putting him to bed and stuff like that. But prior to that, I'd go to networking events and people would be like, oh, that person over there is talking about doing a HMO. They want to have a chat with you. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go have a chat with them. And they're like shocked that I'm in the same room as them, like I'm some HMO god or some. So, like, a lot of people have put me on a pedestal, but I'm just the same bloke that I was before. I've just learned how to take a normal house and rent it out room by room and make it profitable for investors.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah, well, it's amazing what you've done. You shouldn't talk yourself down. Which it's incredible how well and fast you've scaled it, and how many people you've helped. You know, on their journeys as well. So onto the construction company then, because this blows my mind. So you've gone from the HMO. You're a all under one roof HMO, sourcer, renovator, converter, whatever you want to call it, and then manager. So you got this model just ticking away, lovely. Why then the jump from that into a full-blown construction company?
So the construction company isn't as big as what people would think. What we've done is to reduce the risk for us, we've partnered with other builders, established builders, because it's quite hard to grow a building company in Western Australia. You need to apply for indemnity insurance from an insurance provider called QBE, and that insurance limits the number or the volume of construction that you can build at any one time. So right now we can only build $5 million worth of property at any one time. So
Okay.
like I say, we've strategically partnered with bigger builders that can do bigger volume than us. But the reason that we did that is, if I take a step back to probably 2019, 2020 sort of time, we had some of our own personal projects on the go. So we were still doing joint ventures with people. By this time I was out of work and working full time in the business. So I was doing 2 or 3 joint ventures with other parties. They were subdivisions, so we're buying blocks of land, cutting them up to create smaller parcels and selling them or building houses on them. We had clients coming through the doors of the HMO Property Co, looking for help, wanting me to go out and find properties to convert for them. Asking me to renovate existing properties that they had. And then all of a sudden, people started asking me to build these things brand new for them. And I didn't have a great deal of construction experience, mate. I'm a sparky that had a tool bag, and I could do basic things like put kitchens in or do a bit of tiling, put a bit of flooring down, stuff like that. But moving into the construction game was totally different. So one night I remember getting in and I was feeling pretty stressed out. There was a lot going on, spinning a lot of plates. I sat down with my wife, Jo, and I said to her, look, there's too much going on, babe. I need help from somebody that's got experience. And there was a guy that back in 2016 or prior to 2016 had one of the biggest construction companies in Western Australia. And as we mentioned earlier, in that time, the market took a big dive because a lot of people left the state because a lot of the projects finished. And this guy at the time had $200 million worth of construction in the ground and leveraged quite highly on different projects. And then at the same time, the Western Australian government introduced a thing called Foreign Investment Review Tax, which meant that it stopped foreign investors from purchasing in Perth because they increased the stamp duty threshold for foreign investors. And
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
A lot of the projects that Troy was building at the time had foreign investment pre-sales on them, and the foreign investors walked.
Yeah.
Which meant that he violated the LVR, loan to value ratio, with a bank from the construction that he had, and all of his projects just started tumbling one after another, and he went bankrupt.
Bloody hell.
Massive fall. From that height to come back down to where he did, went through a bit of a tough time. But again, using social media, this guy came across me and he was looking to get back into something. He just seen 1 or 2 of my videos. He reached out to me, asked me if I needed any help with anything. I had no idea who this guy was at the time. We went for a coffee and he started asking me about what I was doing. So I started telling about all these little renovations I was doing, like 10 grand here and I made 30 grand there. And I was buzzing, telling this guy what I was doing. And then I said, what about yourself, mate? What have you been up to? And he goes, I used to run a company called Built On. And as soon as he said that name, I thought, oh, have they been in the newspapers lately? And then he said, and we went bankrupt, and started telling me about all the problems that he had and the projects that he was doing. And I just felt myself shrinking in the chair because I was telling him about these scabby little renovations. And this guy was one of the biggest builders in Western Australia. So nothing really came of that meeting that we had there. But what happened is he kept seeing me popping up on social media all the time, and he kept reaching out. Hey, mate, doing a great job there. Keep it up. If you need any help with anything, let me know. And I did reach out to him at some point, and I said, "Look, I've got these people asking me for help with new builds. Can you help me with the design, tendering to builders, and getting them to site?" And he was like, "Yeah, love to help, mate. Love to help." So he did help on a couple of projects. And that night that I got in, I said to Joe, "I think I'm going to ask Troy if he wants to partner with me in some capacity." We had a lot of investors that wanted to work with us in joint venture capacity. We had a lot of clients coming through the door. I just didn't have the experience to cater for everything that was happening. So I reached out to Troy and said, "This is where I'm at. This is what's happening. I need some help. I need some experience." And but before I said that to him, I actually said to him, like, "What are you up to? What are you seeing in the market? Where are you seeing the opportunities?" And this guy lit up. You just, as soon as he started talking about property, you could tell he just still had the spark there. Still loved it. So we started telling me about where he's seeing the opportunities. Co-living HMO is one of the things he mentioned. And I said to him, "I need help. Can we partner up?" So he said, "Let me have a think about it. I'll have a chat with my wife." He goes, "I'm interested, but we've obviously been through a lot, and I want to make sure that we're partnering with the right people." And he rang me up one day and he said, "Look, this is the deal." He said, "I'm interested." He goes, "But my wife wants to meet your wife, and if they get on, we're in business." And I thought to myself, "Oh, we're in business here," because my wife gets on with everybody. His wife is just as lovely as my wife. So we took them out and we had a great night that night. At the end of the night, he shook my hand and he said, "I think we're in business, mate." And fast forward to now, he's built these builder channels because of his experience and connections in that space. And he essentially manages all of the construction we've got in the ground right now, which is 147 properties.
Right. So he's on the call face. He's on site, project managing, is he?
He's managing the managers, the project managers and construction managers of the construction companies we've partnered with.
Yeah. Was that the same role he had at Built-On when he owned the company? Was he still as hands-on?
No. When he was the CEO of a company like that, so they were building something like 300-400 houses a year, turning over $200 million a year. So bigger outfit than what we were, but he was at the top. He was at the top of the tree there. So we're essentially at the minute rebuilding that whole company without the risk, which he incorporated in that business.
Yeah.
And we're enjoying it, mate, because he's not only a great businessman and very experienced, and he's got the battle scars to prove that experience. He's actually a top bloke, man. We've become really good friends, and I hate to break this to you, David, but he's one of my best friends.
Well, as long as it's just one off, yeah. One off. He's in the top 10.
He is. He's in the top 2, mate. And no, he's a really, really good bloke. He's a good family man. He doesn't drink. He was raised a Mormon, and he's just yeah. If you could paint the perfect picture of someone that you want to partner with,
yeah,
I'd have probably painted that.
And to bring all of his pain and all of his lessons that he'd recently experienced directly into a company with yourself, and that's priceless.
Yeah. It's like having a mentor in the business 24/7. Like, there was things going on in the business, at one point we had 29 people employed in the company. A lot of moving parts going on, a lot of headaches, a lot of things going wrong when you've got a team that big and you've never really managed a team that big before. So, I was bouncing ideas off him. I could ring him anytime, 8:00 at night. It's like, "Everything okay, man?" I'm like, "Fuck, this has happened." And he goes, "Okay, when that's happened to me before, this is what I did, or this is who I spoke to, or this is how I managed it before." So very, very calm when things go wrong, and always has experience with things that have gone wrong before. I'm not saying he knows everything, and he'd be the first to admit that, but he's just calm and collective and really good to bounce ideas off and just riff with.
Yeah. And then his network quickly becomes your network.
Exactly.
Which is ideal.
My network became his as well. So again, we had a lot of joint venture partners that wanted to partner with us in different projects. There was projects that I probably would have done that he put the handbrake on and said, "We don't want to do that." And thinking of that experience again, he brought that to the table. I might have done projects that didn't make money or didn't work out as well, and he forecasted that ahead of the project starting. So it's good to have someone like that, not only as a mentor but as your business partner.
No, without a doubt, mate. Yeah, without a doubt. So the stage you're at now, so am I right in thinking you find the land, or or the properties for your investors. So it's a one-stop shop, but now it also includes that construction arm. So the model is essentially the same, but with the addition of the new build element.
Correct. Yeah. So the new build HMO it's just a game changer. The established conversions are good. They're fast when you can find the properties. At the minute, we've got a real shortage of housing on the market, so it's really hard to find anything that fits the model. But go back 4 or 5 years ago, it was really easy to find big houses with games rooms and theatre rooms, because Australia built the biggest houses in the world for like 6 years running or something like that, 246 square meters on average. So a lot of houses had 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. They had a games room and a theatre room. So they're perfect for conversion into HMOs.
Yeah.
But you always had 3 smaller bedrooms that shared a bathroom, and then you had 3 bigger bedrooms that had en suites in them. With the new builds, you've got a blank canvas, and we could take all of the experience that we gained through converting, 60, 70, 80 conversions into HMOs and put that into new builds and create 6 big bedrooms with 6 en suites, kitchenettes, good furniture packs in them, lots of natural light, good common areas. Yeah, it's been a game changer.
And the clients that you're doing this for, how involved do they get in the sort of design and layout, or do they just give you free rein to say, right, this is how it's going to work best?
Yeah, they put their trust in us. We advertise it in a way that we put the full package together for you. We actually call it our concierge service. We become like the concierge for them. So they come in, we've got the finance team to help them get all the finances ready. We've got the structuring team and the legal team to help them set up any sort of entity that they want to purchase in, whether it's a company, a trust structure, or in their own personal name. And then we've got a team that goes out sourcing blocks of land that are suitable for HMOs. And then we've got the design team, the building team, Troy and Emma as our project management team, and Crystal, who's in the Philippines. And then we've got the furniture pack team who puts the furniture packs in when it's built. And then we've got the property management team, which at the minute is 6 people.
Yeah. Superb. So you've got team sourcing land. How easy is that to find currently? I know there's a distinct lack of available property in WA, but what about land?
Yeah, COVID definitely threw some spanners in the works, and that's what's caused the housing shortage. It caused the housing shortage because Western Australia closed the borders and wouldn't let people in or out. That made it a desirable place to be, because when everybody was in full lockdown in COVID, we were just going about our lives as normal. The cafes were open, the restaurants were open, the bars were open. And then you'd be FaceTiming people, clients in Sydney and Melbourne, and they'd be locked in the rooms, locked in the houses for like 5-6 days straight. And we're just living life as normal. And that's brought a lot of people to Western Australia when the borders opened again. The problem with that is, to stimulate the market, the Western Australian government and the federal government introduce grants to the market to stimulate the construction market. So they would give somebody $20,000 if they built a new build house in Western Australia, and they would give them $25,000 if they lived in that house.
Right. Okay.
Excuse me. Now that created this massive construction boom where people were essentially, there was another grant in there as well. So all up, you could get $55,000 off the purchase of a new build property.
Right.
And it caused a stampede, and people were signing build contracts. Construction prices went through the roof, and a lot of things have happened in that time. This was at a time as well when I just started partnering with Troy, and Troy said to me, we can't get any projects to stack up right now because the price of what it takes to develop that block and what we buy it for and what we can sell it for, we'd lose money on just about everything that we're running the numbers on at the minute. So let's just put the handbrake on with developments, and let's just focus on helping clients purchase house and land packages for HMOs, which we did.
Yeah.
The problem being there, right, is because nothing stacked up in the development game for so long, land developers stopped developing land.
Yeah.
And right now we've got a massive shortage of land as well. So we've got 1,800 properties on the market to purchase. We've got 2,400 properties on the market to purchase. It's like the lowest it's ever been again. We've got 1,800 properties on the market to rent. So to try and introduce or to try and fix that, we need to introduce new product to the market. But now we've got a real land shortage because the developers literally just stopped developing for 2 years. So now we've got another 12 to 18 months before a new supply of land through that our investors can purchase, and then we can start building on.
So you talk about land developers there, because obviously that's a different concept in Australia. In England, you buy land, nobody's been on the plot and developed anything for you. But with Australia, the way it's growing and the way it's developing, talk about land developers.
Yeah, so Australia is one of the biggest countries on the planet. I don't think you realize how big it is until you actually get here, or until you overlay something like England into Australia, and you realize that it's absolutely ginormous. The problem with that is there's obviously heaps of land to develop, but the more let's say we've got a city centre being Perth, and the more further away we spread out from Perth, the more expensive it gets because we need to build more roads, more hospitals, more schools, yada, yada, yada. There's a real drive right now to increase the density in Western Australia towards the Perth CBD. So which means that before, if you bought a 1,000 square metre block of land, you could have put 2 houses on it. The government have now rezoned that so you can put 4 houses on it, so you can increase the density. But because the market is still super tight, we've still got this urban sprawl. So a developer would go out and buy a couple of hectares worth of land from a farmer, for instance. He would then apply to the local shire, the local government, to develop that into, let's say, 600 new lots. It would then take him 2.5 years to develop something like that. So he'd literally have to come in with a heap of bulldozers, flatten the land, put new roads in, put new services in, gas, water, electric, internet, apply for new street names, and then get all the land titled, and then they can sell them to people that want to build either the principal place of residence or an investment property on the big land.
Okay.
Big
So have you got relationships with these land developers then?
We have. Yep, we have. And we did have before the market got crazy, but right now, all the relationships that you built in the quiet times when you were helping them out, now the market's gone crazy. Them relationships don't mean nothing unless your clients are cash ready to purchase.
Yeah, for sure. So on that's a good lead in, because I was going to ask you about finance. Obviously, you have used angel finance, as we refer to it in the UK, very, very effectively for your own portfolio, and I'm guessing you've passed that benefit on to your clients. The construction side of things and the new build side of things, how easy is it for you to match the investor and your model up with the cash?
Pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. So there's 2 components to how this works. So if an investor has, let's just go the easy one first. So let's say they've got cash, $250,000 cash. They want to invest in a HMO. Current purchase price on them is like $800,000 to $1 million, $800,000 to $1 million. So they need 20% of that, plus the stamp duty on the land. And we've got the finance team that has got access to the lender that would lend on the construction of a HMO and also take out loan on the back of it. The mainstream lenders, the big 4, they won't touch the HMO model because they see it as high risk because it's new to the market. So it's took some specialist lender to come in and say, we like this, we understand this, we want to fund it. We've got some really good relationships with them guys now because of the volume that we put through them. So if someone's got $250,000 cash, they can quite easily get into a new build HMO and we can take them through that process. If somebody's got equity in an existing investment property or an existing principal place of residence and they need to access that equity to invest in a HMO, then what we've been doing is we've been sending them to the mainstream lenders like Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, Bankwest, etc., to do the refinance so they can draw that equity out, and then they come back with that 250 grand in cash.
Yeah.
And then we go out and we apply for the mortgage with the other lender. So we keep the lenders separate.
Yeah, superb. It's a great model. It sounds like it's just, I'm sure there's obstacles every day as there is in any business, but it just sounds very slick. It sounds like it's just ticking over. You've got a well-oiled machine there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it definitely hasn't been easy, mate. You know that
No, definitely not.
we've had some conversations, but looking back now where we are, and I said that the person that I am now is not the person I was when I first came here in 2010. And it all comes down to just surround yourself with the right people, and you literally opening that door for me and saying, "Step in here, son. It's going to change your life," and it did, mate, in a very, very positive way. So
Yeah.
thank you.
No, that's amazing, mate. I'll make sure you're thanking me for a few more decades yet. But so where do you see the future opportunities? Obviously, you're doing great things. Where's your focus going to be over the next 5 to 10 years? Do you think, are you going to concentrate on your own portfolio and your own construction, your own developments? Or is your focus going to be growing the business and serving the clients, or a mix of the two?
Yeah. So back in 2021, I read a book called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. And they talk about setting a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. So we set a BHAG in the business to deliver 10,000 rooms to the market by 2031. It's now 2024 and we've delivered 630 something. So a long way to go.
Yeah.
With everything we've got under construction, we'll probably tick over 1,000 quite easy.
And it compounds over time as well, doesn't it? So that, that it will snowball.
Yeah. But having that vision and the mission in the business and making it visible for everybody to see. And when we were hiring people, we were talking about the fact that we wanted to deliver 10,000 rooms to the market. And I put an ad on Seek, which is a job advertisement platform. I was looking for more salespeople to join my sales team. And a guy from London reached out to me. He'd been operating in the HMO space back there. West Ham fan, funny guy, like real character. Like sometimes I can't take him serious because he just messes around all the time, but he's switched on big time.
You know, if he's a West Ham fan, he's got a decent sense of humour.
He's good crack, mate. He is good crack. Anyway, I sit down with this guy. He came into my office 2 days after he landed. He goes, "I'm still jet lagged. I still don't know what's going on." He says, "But I seen your ad on Seek." And he says, "I can't believe that you're doing HMOs in Perth." He goes, "I've never heard of anybody doing HMOs outside of England before." He goes, "I want to know more about what you're doing." And I said, "Hang on, I'm supposed to be interviewing you." And he goes, No, you tell me what you want to, where you want to take this. And I'll tell you if I can help you. And I said, "Well, look, the role that I'm recruiting for is for somebody to help them with that investors that come in through our advertising marketing channels, and you take them through a process and then you get them signed up to an investment property and we go out and build it for them." And he went, "All right." And he went, "You want to build 10,000 rooms by 2031? And I said, "Yeah, that's the target." And he goes, "You need to be thinking bigger." And he says, "What I've been doing in the UK is I've been selling large portfolios of HMOs from institutions to banks. The banks are now becoming HMO landlords in London because the price points are so high on them. And the banks are then leasing them back to the government at a fixed 6% return." He said, "So all I need to do is go back there and start telling people what you're doing. And I think I can come back with some substantial funding for the business," which he has done. So he's been still helping us with the mum and dad investors, but he started connecting us with people back in the UK. There's a deal which is kind of on the cusp right now, which will be an absolute game changer, which will take us from 600 rooms to 6,000 rooms with the funding that we're going to get access to. It's not signed, sealed, delivered yet, so that's all I can say on it at the minute.
Yeah, that's why I haven't asked you about it yet.
I was actually on a call just before we recorded this podcast with the group based out of Singapore, and there's an English company involved in it as well. So if it comes off, mate, yep, we will. When you look at a graph and you kind of see that hockey stick kick, like we're plugging along now towards that 10,000 room goal. But if we get the funding that we'll get, we'll tick up and we'll start handing over 1,000 rooms a year quite easy.
I was going to say, once you get the funding, what's the annual target? But you've just answered it: 1,000 rooms a year.
Yeah, we need to be buying 20 blocks of land a month. So
how do you handle? Obviously, you're getting sustainable growth anyway. From a staffing perspective, from a systemization perspective, because I know you're massively into systems, which is why you've been able to grow in the way you have. If you do get that hockey stick, how are you going to handle your sort of staffing levels, your systems? Do the systems in place that you already have, will they be able to grow with it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had lots of conversation around systems and scaling businesses and stuff like that. And again, I'm a big fan of finding people that have already done what I want to do and just paying them to show me how to do it. So I've got a mentor who's a mentor of mine and my business partner's Troy, a guy called Brett Jones. He's big developer back in the day, 60-odd-year-old now, but in his 20s, he had a property development company that was turning over 400 million a year. That was 40 years ago, so that was probably $1 billion in today's revenue. So I've got people like him that I can tap into, phone calls, hey, this is going on, this is going on. Whilst he's never probably done this sort of construction that we're doing, his were larger skyscrapers, stuff like that, taller office blocks and stuff. We're going to be building lots of smaller houses, but it's good to have people that in your corner when you're going through a journey like this. And one of the things that you need to do when you're going through a journey like this is get the right people around you and build the right team, right? So we have essentially scaled back from 29 people in the team to currently 17 people in the team. But what we've done is we've implemented systems and procedures that makes the team more efficient. And we've now got a foundation that we could quite easily double the volume of properties that we're building right now and only need to add 2 or 3 more people to the team.
Yeah. Okay.
The team that
So will
be the property management team. As we're adding them rooms in, we'll need to hire more property management, but the delivery arm, we'll probably need 2 or 3 more people.
Yeah. And it's amazing that you're just going to keep on feeding that management business.
Yeah.
It's just organic growth, isn't it? There's no mass marketing in play. It's just a self-fulfilling sort of vehicle.
Yeah, we don't really advertise the property management business or the construction business at all. We only feed into that business through the HMO Property Co, and that's our marketing, sales, project management arm.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about Neil Gibb, the businessman, and how well it's going with that. But Neil Gibb, the developer, what are your sort of ambitions as a developer yourself?
Well, them properties, if we get that funding from them companies, then that will be our portfolio that we'll be building ourselves. We'll have to repay that funding back to them, but the properties that we produce will return enough cash flow so that we can pay them back. We might even build that portfolio out. We might sell half of it and then pay the debt down on the rest of it and have a portfolio that's unencumbered. It all depends how the conversation goes with these guys. Development wise, like I said, Troy put the brakes on a couple of years back because nothing was really stacking up. And if we get this funding, then we probably won't need to do any projects as such. But I think we'll get bored of just building single houses. So there could be, we could end up building some vertical co-living sort of projects. We moved recently into the disability space as well, and we're providing disability housing, which is the participants that live in these houses funded by the government. We've got some projects there, which is 15 apartment NDIS project. That's been in the back burner for a while with another joint venture partner. So we'll probably build that out again. The property management business does HMO and disability property management. So everything that we're developing and building for ourselves and for our clients, we'll be managing in-house with our 2 property management businesses.
Superb. So day to day, what does a day in the life look like for you now? Are you mainly office based? Are you out and about? Are you constantly meeting up with people? Tell me a typical day if there is one.
Yeah, man, I'm a creature of habit. So if I don't get my morning routine down pat every morning, then the rest of my day doesn't feel like it flows as easy. So I'm up at 5 o'clock every morning, and that, I don't know whether people think that's early or not, but Western Australia, it kind of kicks earlier a little bit because the sun comes up early and it's warmer earlier. So I'm in bed for 8:30, 9 o'clock every night. I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm trying to meditate more at the minute. Probably meditating 3 or 4 times a week. Then I'm either got a gym session or a bike session in. I'm exercising 4 or 5 times a week. 5 or 6 times a week at the minute. And then that generally ends around 7 a.m. And that's the time when my wife and my son wake up. And then we sit down as a family. We have breakfast every morning, which is beautiful because I'm just proud that I've got the life going back to like work and fly and fly out. And a lot of people get to miss out on the kids growing up. I get the real privilege of sitting down every morning and seeing this little human grow. And I get to have breakfast with him every morning. I get to see him every night. I get to put in the bath with him, put him to bed every night. So I'm religiously there every morning, 7 o'clock for breakfast.
It's amazing.
Sit there for an hour with them. 8 o'clock, I'm in the shower. 8:30, I'm in the office, and then I'm back out the office generally around 4:30, so that I get in and have dinner with them on a night as well.
Yeah.
And after that, I'm absolutely knackered. So get in, have dinner, play with him for an hour, and then when he goes to bed, I'm in bed an hour after him.
So when you leave the office at 4:30, does the phone go off?
It does. I try my best to leave it off. For any entrepreneur that is listening to this, or any business owner that's listening to this and doesn't have a PA or an EA, I'd suggest getting one ASAP because it's a game changer. Someone once asked me, like, if you had to go back and start again, what would you do first? And I said I'd get a PA or an EA first and foremost, because they can free you up to be who you need to be to become who you need to be. But my EA at the minute, she's incredible. I've had some really good EAs over the years as well. But because I've got her in place, if my phone does ring, it diverts through to her afterwards. My emails, she takes care of all my emails. So I'm not as on my phone as I used to be back in the days. Sometimes, yeah, like Troy might ring me and I always have time to speak to Troy, or some of the sales guys might ring me. I might have a little chat with them. But the laptop generally stays in the office, and I might take 1 or 2 phone calls on a night, but not much, mate.
Yeah, good. We've got a good balance by the sounds of it, and considering the growth phase that you're going through, I think that's it's rare, I think, for someone like yourself. On the meditation, I know it's more beneficial to people like us who are so busy every day, but it also makes it all the more difficult to get into and to stick with, doesn't it? Because I tried to meditate this morning, and then I started crunching the numbers on a property in my head. And by the end of it, I'd forgotten I was meditating.
Yeah. But look, even if you just sit there with your eyes closed for 15 minutes and you solve some problems, then that's a good outcome, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You sit there without a screen in front of you. So
no.
I started doing transcendental meditation about 12 months ago, where you just repeat the same thing over and over again. And it's quite good because if you just focus on that word that you need to repeat, it kind of switches your brain off quite fast.
Right. So you're repeating one word over and over?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
If you get into, they call it TM, transcendental meditation, the person that teaches you how to do it will give you the phrase to speak, or the phrase to repeat, or the mantra as they call it, and you just repeat it over and over again. I actually got into it, right, because I was listening to Sam Allardyce's autobiography, of all people. Right. Sam Allardyce does transcendental meditation.
Does he?
So there you go. That's how I got in. I was like, I'll have a look what that is. And then I ended up finding a transcendental meditation practice place around the corner. So I went round, paid them $1,000. 2 weeks later,
brilliant,
doing TM every day. It's actually really good. It helps you get to sleep on a night as well. So if I've got a bit of my mind's racing, I'll do TM in bed, and before you know it, the alarm's going off.
Yeah. As long as you don't slowly start morphing into Sam Allardyce, you'll be all right.
Got the E-piece, mate. That comes out every now and again.
Oh, well, inspiration comes from many places, I guess.
Doesn't it just?
So back to the UK, obviously, it's like speaking to someone from Teesside. Your accent hasn't changed much, and that'll always be your roots. Would you ever invest in the UK?
There was a time when I probably would have, but now I just don't see the need to. You know, I was, if anything, I'd like to try and get my parents over here, and then there's no real reason to be putting money back into the UK. You know, so. Yeah, I mean, with everything that we've got going on over here, mate, it's just something else that you've got to consider. When I first started back in the journey, if I go back to like 2014, when we went to that seminar, you get taught so many different things, so many different ways to generate money or income from property. And I was like a magpie, where I was just getting attracted by the shiny thing, which every 2 minutes I was changing my strategy. But what I've noted and what I've realized over the years, that the sooner you niche down into something and just become the expert in that one thing, then your results start to come thick and fast.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. And then, but the bigger that niche gets, the more, again, it's a catch 22, because the bigger the niche gets, the more you are seen as an expert, the more your network grows, the more new clients you bring in, and then more shiny pennies appear because of all this.
They do, but
Sort of.
it's because you're just the expert in that one thing. So, like I said earlier,
Yeah.
I've become like the go-to person for the HMOs. I don't do anything outside of that. Like, being in the position that I'm in, people flick me projects all the time. What do you think of this? Would you be interested in this? And unless we can do a HMO on it or an NDIS disability property, then we just don't entertain it. And there's some fucking cracking deals that we turn away.
Yeah, but
the more focused you are, the better your results.
so with so much going on, so much progress made in such a small time period, what is the end goal for Neil Gibb? Where do you see this all ultimately ending up?
The end goal has obviously changed over time, and I think when I first got introduced to setting goals, I thought it was a bit wishy-washy. But the minute I started setting goals and I had something to work towards, it soon reached them goals really fast. So obviously setting the goal for 10,000 rooms in 10 years in the business, it's a big, hairy, audacious goal, but we're going for that. The goal really is just that at the minute, mate. Just everything is in the business. If you ask anybody in the business, why does your business exist? What are you trying to do? They all know that we're trying to deliver 10,000 rooms to the market. Not just any rooms. We're trying to deliver quality accommodation to the market, like the standard of furniture, the standard of finish that we do on these properties is just head and shoulders above what anything else was in the market. And we only really add student accommodation to compare ourselves to, which isn't hard to be better than that, generally by the standard that they deliver. But the goal for the business, mate, is to hit them 10,000 rooms. If we hit it, there'll be a big celebration. If we don't, we'll have a fucking good crack at it and get as close as we can.
Yeah. Interesting, because your goals never change. Once you do hit that goal, it'll be interesting to see what you do from then on.
Yeah. I mean, but my first goal when I first got into property was to replace my income, which I did. And then the next one was to set a business up and to do 10 properties a year, which we did. And then it was like, fuck. I can't remember what it was. It says something like, if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough. So I just went, 10,000 rooms. Let's just throw it out there. And we're working towards it, mate. I think it's achievable. Is it going to be easy? Not really. Is there going to be problems along the way? Absolutely. Am I going to feel like giving up halfway through? Probably. I'm going to keep going, definitely.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, set goals every year, work towards them. Even if you don't hit them, but you get close to them, that's still a good outcome.
Yeah.
But know where you want to go in life is one of the biggest things that, if anyone can take from this, is know where you go, know where you want to go, and then you can reverse engineer that so you can start making progress towards it.
Yeah, so you've got the big goal of 10,000 properties. You've just mentioned there that you're setting annual goals as well. Is that as far as you go with it, or do you have monthly goals, quarterly goals?
Yeah, so I embrace goals through the business. So as a business ourselves, we do an annual planning day where at the start of every year we sit down and reflect over what we've achieved in the last 12 months. We set our goals for the next 12 months, which ties into our big 10-year goal of 10,000 rooms in 10 years. Then every 90 days we sit down. From that annual planning day, we'll forecast what we're going to do for the next 12 months, but what we're going to do for the next 90 days, which will ties into that 12-monther. And then we'll sit back down in 90 days. I take everybody out of the business, I sit them down. We rent a room out at a hotel just down the street there so that they're out of the business and they're not getting caught up doing the day-to-day things. We take them out of the business, we sit down again, we reflect over the last 90 days. What have we achieved? Have we hit our targets? Why didn't we hit them? What are we going to do for the next 90 days? That's going to ties into the 12-month target, which will ties into our 10-year target.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So it's all about the goals. I'm probably not as being as tight on my personal goals lately, because if we hit that business goal, then a lot of my life goals around wealth and stuff like that will come good. But all I'm trying to do, mate, is stay as fit as healthy as I can so that the days are as manageable as possible, but also that I have time and energy to spend it with my family after work every day as well.
Yeah. I want to touch on one subject, which is a bit off the wall, but it's something we talk about quite regularly. You've limited massively the use of alcohol Now, this is something that's becoming more and more common with entrepreneurs that I interview and deal with on a day-to-day basis. A lot of them have either knocked it on the head completely, but I'd say more than 50% drink very rarely now.
Yeah.
How big has that effect been on your life?
Huge, mate. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and someone said that alcohol is the thief of tomorrow, and potentially the next day as well, depending on how much you drink.
Yeah, about 4 days for me.
Yeah, exactly. Like it literally takes me 1 or 2 pints now, and I'm just wrote off the next day. So I got to the point where I just said to myself, is it worth these drinks and this short-term satisfaction for the long-term
Yeah.
feeling of how I'm going to feel tomorrow and the day after that? Because it started affecting me for too long. So back in 2021, I think it was, I did a year off the booze altogether. And then 22, 23, sort of in and out of it. I think once you do that long term off the booze, it changes your relationship with it, doesn't it? Like you're no longer hanging out for it like you used to.
Yeah.
And I started just to drink it socially instead of like picking a 6-pack up on the way home and drinking that in the house on a night, or smashing a bottle of red wine on the sofa, which you drink one bottle of red wine and you're searching for the next one, right?
Of course, yeah.
And the second one's never a good idea because you wake up feeling like shit the next day. So yeah, after that 1 year off the booze, and I think going back to when we worked away and did fly in, fly out, we were working offshore. There's no booze off there. And you realize how good you felt for them 2 or 3 weeks that you were away, right? And I used to look back at them days and go, I feel like shit now, but I used to feel good then. And then I'd come back and I'd start drinking. So just experiment with different things. You know, as you're getting older, you want to try and stay as sharp as possible. I mean, 41 now. But I want to stay as fit and as healthy and as sharp as possible because, you know, we only get one crack at life, right? And I want to enjoy it the best I can and remember as much as I can of it and be the best person I can possibly be, mate. And if it means not drinking, then so be it.
Yeah, it's a small sacrifice to make, I think, isn't it? Especially like yourself, you've got a young family and stuff like that. But on a day-to-day basis, as a business owner, it's not just feeling like crap and having, you know, you want to be full of energy. Your team feed off your energy, don't you? So if you're not at the top of your game, that has a knock-on effect to everyone in your team. I fully believe that.
Absolutely.
And your decision-making becomes less crisp, less sharp. You procrastinate, you start doubting yourself. It has so many negative effects.
It all stems to bad sleep as well, right? Because if you drink, your sleep is terrible, and then you wake up the next day sleep deprived and dehydrated. So another big thing that I'm prioritizing in a minute is my sleep. So I've got a bit of a nighttime routine that I go through as well before I go to bed. So I've been wearing blue light blocking glasses on a night when I'm watching TV. Generally switch the TV off an hour before I go to bed and just try and just be chat to my missus or even read a book or something like that. Big book reader. And I've tried to do some meditation on a night as well. Can't do it as good, to be honest, mate. So kind of chip in and out of it every now and again. But yeah, blue light blocking glasses on, TV off an hour before I go to bed, and then just not trying to do anything stimulating so that when I'm getting into bed, I'm tired, I can fall asleep and stay asleep for as long as I can.
Yeah. Blue light glasses is a big thing. I wear them all day. I wear them all day at the office now. And I have, when I'm ever on my laptop, and I haven't worn them for the podcast because I look like a shit Harry Potter. But they've had a massive effect on my sleep.
Yeah. It's no booze and sleep, and I'm feeling good at the minute because I haven't been drinking and I've been sleeping pretty well. Am I going to stop drinking forever? Probably not. You know, if we get this big fund over the line, there'll definitely be a bottle of Moet Chandon getting cracked open or something like that. But yeah, I'll probably celebrate that one time, and then, you know, that's when the hard work's going to start for us because the funds want to return on their investment, so we're going to have to be out there and we're going to have to deliver.
Exactly.
So, head on.
Sure.
Head on.
Yeah. So last couple of questions. What would your number one piece of advice be for a guy or girl in the day job wanting to replace their income with property? What would be your number one piece of advice to them today as they sit and think about it?
I'll just do it, really. I mean, there's not one piece of advice I can give you. It's probably a series of advices. So the first one would be set some goals and understand why you want that goal. Surround yourself with the right people and get educated. And that education component could come by surrounding yourself with the right people, or it could come through the form of an education course or something like that. There's plenty of them out there at the minute. The range in price, they all work, but you have to do the work.
Yeah.
Because these courses are essentially what other successful people have downloaded from their brain, put in a paper or video, and said, this is how I have achieved this in my life. So
Yeah.
if you follow the steps in these courses, they generally work. So they would be my tips just to get started. Set some goals, surround yourself with the right people, and get educated.
Yeah, that's it. It's it. No matter what you're trying to achieve in your life, somebody or multiple people have already done it, and somebody has written a book about it. So even if you don't want to pay £1,000 for a course, there's always a book out there.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
someone,
that's how you got started, right? You were a big book reader.
yeah, books and podcasts. I've never done any property training,
Yeah.
so books and podcasts, podcasts mainly. But I read a book a week now. Even still, I love reading.
Yeah.
I'm reading Rob Moore's new one, Money Matrix, at the
Yeah, me
moment.
too.
I'm about 100 pages in, and I can't put it down.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good one. I like Rob Moore. So if you could go back to 2011, you and I are walking into that property seminar. If you could go back to that very day now, is there anything along the journey that you would have done differently?
I don't think so, mate. I mean, I look back and I think the money that me and you earned, like, could I have used that differently? But you know what? I'm pretty happy with the life that I've had so far. If we've had some good nights out, some good parties, some good times, and I don't regret any of it. It's made me who I am today. And would I change it? Probably not. But yeah, you always think, "Oh, if I'd have used that money differently, I might have been in a different position now. But I also might not be in the position I'm in now. That when we first started the business, or when we first started getting into property, I'd never thought I'd be having the conversations that I'm having with the people that I'm having, talking about the monetary figures that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But here we are today on the verge of raising some substantial capital, which will have some serious impact on the property market in Perth.
Huge impact, yeah. I often think that we talked about this previously, but I often think, oh God, if I just had less holidays or not gone backpacking
But then you'd be
bought
boring,
more
wouldn't
property.
you? You wouldn't be you if
Exactly.
you did
Yeah, or more boring. Yeah.
that.
Yeah, but it like you say, it's made us, hasn't it? And yeah, I'd be sat here, maybe he's wealthier, but with no memories, no stories to tell.
Exactly.
Or less stories to tell. So yeah, it's all part of it. Listen, Neil, I won't take any more of your time, mate, because I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate your time to chat to us today. I'm sure you'll be back on the show. I just want to thank you, and really, really enjoying your journey, and can't wait to see what the next few years hold for you.
Yeah, pleasure catching up, son. And again, thank you for not only opening that door, mate, but your friendship over the years as well, mate. You've been an excellent friend, and I don't say that lightly. So thank you, bro.
Yeah, I'll continue to be. Don't worry about that. If you are listening or watching this online, please do share, like, and subscribe. It really does help. Until next time, take care.